Okay, welcome everyone and welcome to the last Live at Lunch for 2017. And I have got special guest Sheridan Morris. She's a writer, a ghost writer, a comedian, so many talents that and for copyright, and loves writing, helping people write stories about history. I think that's your biggest passion, isn't it, Sheridan?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. So today Sheridan's going to share with us her skills and tips for writing for our own story, for writing on the web and getting our web presence. So that's for like blog posts and actual websites, Sheridan.
Yes. I want people to understand the importance of their business story as almost like a backdrop to that as well.
Yes. So giving potential clients a bit of a picture of the passion.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Fantastic. All right. So I'm going to hand it over to you, Sheridan. If there's some questions, people can type them in the text box. You are welcome to take the mic if you want to, but I know from our regular guests they tend to type. And so I'm going to mute myself and let you go for it. And and then perhaps along the way, or would you like to make it a conversation? We haven't really discussed that angle.
Well, if you've got any questions that come up, just ask. That's fine.
Okay.
You know me, I can talk.
That's it. That's what you're here for. To share with us. That's it. A guest speaker and helping people with public speaking. All right. My special guest, Sheridan Morris.
Thanks. Well, thank you very much, Vivian. I really appreciate the opportunity to share with people my passion about their business story. I work closely with a lot of small to medium enterprises, and they all do a fabulous job. They're all unique in what they're doing. But when you ask them to express that, especially on their website and their blogs on paper, I don't know if they get shy or whether they're just, sitting with a teacher on their shoulder still and worried about putting out something that's not grammatically correct. But the passion when you speak to them is very apparent, but as soon as they start to write it, that disappears. So by interviewing them and getting them in touch with their business story, I connect that passion, because they need to have the passion and all the keywords and the right information and showing that they're solving the problem for their client. But I say to people, your business story didn't just start when you registered your business name. It started way before that. I know that at my point in time now with my business, that everything that I've ever experienced, everything that I've learned, everything that I've stumbled on and fallen over has created who I am now. There's an innate ability, and then there's the experience, and then there's actually being in action in your business. So people forget that. They forget that, things that happened with their childhood, what they knew that they could do very naturally and didn't even have a second thought about it. All of that comes together when we create our business, because people don't buy products and don't buy a service if they don't like the person that's providing it. And if you look at our greatest people that we all love and admire, we love their backstory. Just recently, I was reading about a singer, and I knew he was popular, but I didn't realise his backstory. And once I read it, I felt closer to him. And I think this is what I'm encouraging people to do, is to have whoever's reading, whoever's listening, to feel connected to them and feel closer to them. So when I record people's business stories, we often end up with like 3 pages because it's all of their background, and I gather the pieces of the story and put it together. But from that content, you can then draw out certain phrases and certain paragraphs that you can use for bios, that you can use on your website, on your About Us page. But the actual exercise of going through that story and really exploring it with someone who's engaged with you, engaged in your business success, really helps you to see that you've been on a similar sort of path. And that's what I love. The amazing part of this for me is that so many business owners don't know how unique they are. And to help them discover that is really very exciting.
That really makes a lot of sense, Sheridan. It's sort of like getting the passion and the connection with.
Well, yes.
Yeah.
And also it's my secret weapon, because once you get business owners speaking passionately, they say these wonderful phrases, you grab them, you write them down, and you make sure that that's in the content. And it's a strange thing because there's an energy in those words. You watch their face and you can see the glow. You can see that their speech is sped up, they're really excited about it, their eyes are bright. You know that they're connected to that passion. Now, if you take those phrases when it happens and write them down, they seem to hold that energy underneath. And, you know, that's a crucial part of it. Then people go, wow, this person is really great. I want to get to know them. I want to buy their service or product.
Yeah.
And
or join their volunteer organisation, because we've got a few.
Or join their volunteer organisation. Yeah, just whatever you're wanting to promote, people connect to that because they're connecting to you. And, you know, you'll hear it through so many books and presenters. You are your business, and we forget that. I think it's an important thing to get someone who's objective to help you discover that story. If someone's in the business or in the family, they'll miss stuff. They won't sit as that unbiased observer. And so if you know someone that you can actually ask them, you know, look, I want to tell you my business story, and they will ask the questions that enhance it. So if you know of someone who does that, then, you know, try and get someone outside of the family so that you're not making assumptions. And that's another fault that a lot of business owners have with when they start to do their blogs. They assume that people know about their business. They assume that they know about the problem, and sometimes it's just a simple explanation of the problem, a simple explanation of how they solve it to enhance the person's understanding. And then once they see that there's a solution, they know that your person's going to solve it.
Okay, so Sheridan, you're suggesting that you actually you have a conversation with someone, because I was thinking if I was writing about my business that I would just write and type myself, but by having a conversation with someone asking questions, you start to draw out from the person what it is that's driving.
Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah. And you could get their feedback and say, once we have this conversation, I want you to tell me what got you excited. And of course, if they're not excited, then you need to explore it even more. I know that words have been part of my life from a very early age, and that came from my father's passion for language. He wasn't very highly educated. He got sent to work on the farm, and so his education stopped at grade 5. But a highly intelligent man, and loved linguistics, and so he would sit at the end of the table and read anything he could put his hands on: encyclopedias, dictionaries, newspapers, Reader's Digest, whatever. And he'd look up and he'd have this look on his face and say, have a listen to this. And we would stop because the passion came through. So it was important. Plus the whole family, we loved to play puns on each other. And I think this is where my comedy and my sense of humour was developed. You know, if somebody made one pun, then you'd have to up that and better it and better it. So the sibling rivalry came out around the table. And then I was that dorky kid at school who understood what the poems meant. In fact, I wrote my own poetry to express my teenage angst in my early years. And so the comprehension of stories was always there for me. I see now that that is what is in the background whenever I interview a client or I'm working on their content for their business, because I can explore that. I can get inside their emotions and their thoughts and then starting expressing it. And of course, Then I hand it over to them and we do a final edit. They need to have the last say. They need to be completely comfortable with it. But if you've got someone who can get that down on paper as quickly as possible and as much as possible, and then you start to work through it, you'll find that there's things that come through and you'll go, oh yeah, I do know that about myself, but you've never thought to express it in that way. And that's actually a key part of why your business is unique and a success.
And I suppose to another added technology side to it, we've all got mobile phones. We could record the conversation if we're not quick enough to write, if we want to relax with the conversation and working with someone who may not have that quick scribing process, then that could be an added to it. I've just recently, I observed a journalist, 2 different journalists locally for the local paper, and one has a recording and one doesn't. And yeah, I mean, it takes time to go back through the recording, so there's a time factor. So sometimes they're writing down, but certainly I think it helps for capturing the moment. You know what it is, but you can get the words that were said perhaps a bit more clearer.
Well, this is where Zoom is such a wonderful tool.
Yes, we could do it via Zoom, couldn't we, with someone?
I've actually recorded clients on Zoom.
Yes.
I then send it to a transcriber because she can hear it and get it down for me much quicker than I can.
Mm-hmm.
I like to get the words and then start to massage it and remembering what I've heard and add in sort of what I've observed. But transcribers are fabulous. I use transcribers a lot. With the recording of the family histories, that's either an audio recording or a Zoom. You send it off to them, they quickly get all the words together, and then you can just work on the content from there. So, you know, if you've got someone who can type fast, doesn't mind doing it, then, you know, hand it on to them, because get other people engaged in your business to give you the feedback. I think the biggest thing is the feedback, because others will hear that passion. Others will hear the expertise that you have. And because it's so naturally you, and it's something that you've done over and over and over again, you kind of discredit it, or you just don't see it.
Yes.
And so I'm encouraging people to really explore that. And, you know, I love the change that happens for clients when they do connect that way. They suddenly go, of course. And the confidence changes.
Yes.
And then it becomes a conversation of how best to use the content. And that's fabulous, because then they're looking through it and going, right, I can use that for a bio here and things like that. And, you know,
maybe on social media, like little grabs on social media too, could be.
By all means, if you've got a funny little story or something, get it out on a blog, you know. I'll tell you one of mine, which is I had a time in my business when I first started out where I found it hard to trust people. Couldn't work out what was going on. And then through exploring, I remembered a time when I was about 6 years old, and my mother was post-war mother. If she gave you something, you had to eat it all. Couldn't waste anything. So I was eating a sandwich. I ate everything but the crusts. And she said, eat your crusts. Well, 6-year-old me thought, no, I don't want to, you know, like this. And she said, you have to eat your crusts. I said, I don't want to. And she pointed to my younger brother's plate, and it was empty. And she said those crushing words, Mostyn always eats his crusts. And of course, I look over him, he's my younger brother. There's already sibling rivalry. He's already, you know, exploded into my life, and I'm no longer the baby of the family. And there he is, he's doing everything right. Except that when Mum and Dad decided to replace the old wooden table in the kitchen with a Laminex one, as they were wont to do in the 50s, out fell all of his mouldy crusts from underneath the ledge on the table. And I was furious. Everyone thought he was hilarious. They thought it was so funny. And it set up this thing of just, you can't trust people. They've all got crusts under the table. And, I share that one as like, it's a breakthrough in my business, Like, don't be looking for the crusts under the table. Start to, you know, always trust your gut and things like that. But it's like, you know, relate, communicate, you know, connect with people, and then choose if that's the right person, the right fit for your business. But yeah, so those sorts of stories people love because, you know, they have a bit of a chuckle, but also there's that connection.
Yeah. Well, I immediately connect with, I used to babysit for a young little gentleman when I lived down in Melbourne, and I discovered the stash behind the fridge as well. That no one knew. So just there's a question that Gay's asked, and that is what the cost of the transcriber. How do you go about getting a transcriber? Like, is there a space on the we can find
you
one?
You can go to Fiverr and things like that.
Yes.
I'd suggest choosing someone who has English as a first language.
Yes.
Because it's a lot easier for them. I found someone through, they're a virtual assistant, and quite a few virtual assistants will do transcribing. And it'll be a per hour basis or a per word basis, that sort of thing. It doesn't work out highly expensive, and it's a cost worth thinking about.
A great way of transcribing the history stories too, you know, what you're saying. Yes. So Fiverr.com, I think it's FIVR.com.
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. So
I'm sure it was
sorry to interrupt. The Fiverr is actually lots of different ways, lots of different people offer their services.
Yes.
On this website. So I've actually been told about it, but I've not actually gone. So there could be someone who's a personal assistant, or could even be mowing lawns or cleaning rooms. It could be anything like that, couldn't it? And you can do this distance connection in terms of the transcribing. Yeah.
And I think Odesk is another one as well.
Okay, Odesk.
So, and, you know, people put their skills up there. It gives them cash flow work, that sort of thing. If you can, you know, build a relationship with that particular transcriber if you've got a few things to transcribe. But now I've got a virtual assistant, and I know, look, I've sent her my handwritten notes, photocopied, and she's been able to work out my scribing, and or else there'll be a series of question marks in the thing. But because I know I've got the notes, I can sort of work out what it is. But yeah, they're marvellous in helping you that way. And it's another thing, because if you think you've got to sit there and listen to yourself speak and type it out, you know, you put it off. It's another one of those things you put off. You know, remove those barriers by handing it on to someone who enjoys doing it. It's a small cost, and then you've got the result, and then you can get on to what you want to do, which is refining it.
Yeah. Oh, that sounds great. Yeah. Gay's actually found it, so Fiverr, FIVERR.com.
Great.
Thanks.
Good.
Gay. We've got our own little transcribers and seekers and researchers in the background working while we're live.
I really love the groups, the business groups that are coming up on Facebook, where you've got closed groups and you're accepted into them. And it might be just women in business, or it might be small business, that sort of thing. I think they're a great resource as well, because you can just put up on those, this is what I need, and people come in to offer help. So you don't have to go doing the old Google search and, you know, getting bleary-eyed because you can't, or else which is my habit. I get sidetracked. I go off on, and I forget what I'm supposed to be doing. So, little insight into me. Another thing that I encourage is we all have our sense of humour, right? So I had the pleasure this morning of watching a video of a fellow person. He's a fellow coach, and he's he'll understand what I describe. He's a bit dorky, right? 2 left feet, wonderful brain, amazing skills, very imaginative and creative, but, you know, couldn't chew gum and walk at the same time. He knew this about himself. So he got a coach to come in and show him how to dance. and they've recorded the experience, so he's learned how to dance. It's like, I know this about myself, and now I've done something about it. It was hilarious. And and he's usually quite a droll person, so this is him capturing his sense of humor, because he could laugh at himself, but he wouldn't just, you know, accept it. He did something about it and changed it, which is another thing we all know about him. So I always encourage people to bring in your sense of humor. If it's a play on words, if it's images that you connect with, share it with your clients, because when they meet you, you're naturally going to be that way. I think most of us have learned now we don't have to be, you know, stiff and very formal in our conversations with clients. We can be ourselves. When we are ourselves, then they connect to us better. So, you know, this is where my studies in comedy have been really helpful, because if I'm writing for someone, if I'm writing a book or writing a speech for them, or even, you know, setting up blogs and things like that, we can work on that sense of humour. I had a guy who was a handyman, right? And he was telling me how if you want to replace the tiles in your bathroom, be careful, because once you remove the tiles, there could be all sorts of horrors underneath it. So I got the photograph of Janet Leigh, I think it is, from Hitchcock's movie, where she's screaming in the shower when the guy comes in. That was the image that we used. Yeah. So again, wherever we could, we put his sense of humour in it. He loved it. And I always sort of check with him, have I gone too far? No, that's perfect, you know. And that's how he is, cheerful. He's very cheerful, very, you know, conversational when people meet him. So his blogs need to be that way as well. Now, if you're a fact and detail person, people will know that about you, right? Be that in your blogs, but there's still your sense of humour in that. I went to a conference once, and it was all accountants and finance people in the hospital industry, and a speaker got up and he showed an image of an accountant happy, an accountant sad, accountant, you know, having won the lottery, all this sort of thing. And of course it was the same picture, because they all knew that everyone thought accountants just have this one face, you know. And by doing that, he got the audience to engage with him, and they loved his presentation. So wherever you can, put your sense of humour in. You've got to be sensitive, you know, like we all have our dark humour and things like that. You don't want to offend people, but you know when something sort of, you know, makes you chuckle, it's great to share it.
I suppose for me, I found that if I deliberately try to think of something funny, it's more of a challenge, and I feel false, and that's a difficult thing. But I suppose if it comes naturally, then do it. Yeah.
Yes. But there are formulas and structures to comedy and humour. So if you want to, you can find out how to use that in your writing, and there's all these different rules. Somebody's just made a comment there. What's that?
Yeah, it's gay. My problem is the other person doesn't share my sense of humour. Yeah.
Yes. So you've got to gauge that, but why always constantly hold back on who you are, really? Yeah, if you've got to explain the joke, that's a little bit difficult. I understand what you're saying, Gay. So you've got to, I've found I can always think of something funny, and I have to hold it, because I have to gauge, is it the right moment? Are they the right person? And I think if you do that, then you've got more chance of it hitting the mark than not.
Yes, that's a whole other topic, I think, isn't it, really? So are there any questions? We're almost getting close to the end of the half hour for our Live at Lunch. And I'm going to put Sheridan's website at the moment is it's about to be relaunched. So it's not actually live at the moment, but it is wellsaid.com.au. So she's got a wealth of, I mean, I'm just amazed at how, and I didn't mention earlier about the public speaking, because that's a whole other angle and of the work that you do as well. Do you do training with that, Sheridan?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. particularly helping people to put the content together in such a way that, you know, they feel very confident about it, and that improves their presentation immediately.
Yeah. And so, and also Sheridan's email is sheridan@wellsaid.com.au. So if anyone wants to make inquiries directly to Sheridan, then that's a possibility. But thank you. I didn't realise where it was going to head, particularly in terms of having a conversation with someone, and that's really sparked a light for me in having a conversation with someone and getting them to ask the questions and their own interest in your story and as to why you're there. That's a light bulb moment. Thank you very much.
And, you know, give them permission to say, tell me more about that, because you quite often skip over things and they go, hold on a minute, tell me more about that, and then you realise that that's another part of who you are, and bring that to the business. Yeah.
Are there any sort of key questions that you could ask a person? Have you got a set for me when you're talking to someone about their business?
I do, and if you like, I can email those to you.
Yes.
And people can pass those on to the person that they're working with. Very happy to do that.
Yeah.
I never stick to all of the questions. I do hand it on to the person that I'm interviewing, because some people like to be a bit more prepared, but I don't want it to be, you know, a pre-arranged answer. I really want it to be organic.
Yes.
But it might be a starting point for someone to help them gather the information they need.
Fantastic. Well, I'll send that out through our normal mail out for people who are
Excellent.
That'd be great. Okay. Yeah. Well, thank you. I don't think no one's typing in any further questions. Thank you so much. Wishing everyone a wonderful Christmas. We're about to hit the crazy well, we probably already have the crazy seasons upon us. So wishing everyone a fantastic time. Live at Lunch isn't going ahead until the new year. I haven't set a date. I'm lining up different speakers and topics, and we'll work on that and come back with a whole new, awesome lot of innovative entrepreneurial women to help us grow our business and share ideas, as you've done today with us, Sheridan. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you very much, Vivian, for the opportunity. It's fabulous to be able to have a conversation, and I know that, you know, my passion has come through with that, and I'm sure you'll find as people, you know, connect with you and are given a chance to speak about their business, that will happen.
Yes.
So it's a very good opportunity.
Keep looking out for those spots where someone's hiding those crusts.
Yes, that's right. The gems.
Brilliant. Thanks, everyone. And thanks, Sherdian.
Thank you. Bye-bye.